Valorant as a game has not been out long. In fact, it still hasn't even been a year yet. But that hasn't stopped this game from rapidly evolving and creating less than favorable metas in the process. What is up, ProGuides family? It's your host, Sergeant Frost, and today we're going to be talking about some of the biggest balance problems within the Episode 2 Act 1 meta. Let's not waste any more time, let's jump right into this video. Before we dive into our discussion today, let's talk about what a meta is first. The word meta is an acronym that is well known throughout the video game community, and it stands for Most Effective Tactic Available. A meta within a game is when the community within that game unanimously agrees either verbally or non-verbally that a certain tactic, weapon, map, or character is the best thing you can use at that moment to win. Metas can mean certain things depending on the style and genre of said game. For example, in a game like League of Legends, the meta can be what the best champions are in each role and what items you can use to beat your opponents as quickly as possible. In a game like Rainbow Six Siege, the meta can be the best maps to play on, the best operators to use for those maps, and what bomb sites to defend and how you go about fortifying them. For this video, we're going to be focusing on Valorant's meta though, which mostly involves the best agents to use, the best guns to use, how to defend certain bomb sites, how to attack certain bomb sites, and what agents' abilities and other aspects of the game are the most broken at the time. We will structure this video in a way where we will talk about what the meta currently is, what is wrong with the meta balance-wise, and we hope to give some suggestions on how they can fix it. So, what is Valorant's current meta? Well, that's a good question because Riot has been busy with patches trying to fix a lot of the problems the community has complained about since last year. The most recent meta that the community at large has been dealing with is the Flash meta or the Attacker meta. Through several patches in Act 3 last year, Riot introduced a Flash meta into the game through buffing several agents' abilities and adding new ones into the mix. The addition of Skye and Yoru has shaken up the meta in quite a few ways, but their main impact on our most current meta is the plethora of flashes that have come into the game because of them. This Flash meta or Attacker meta was not only created by Riot, the community expanded on it even further by playing team comps with multiple Flash agents. The reason this was allowed to persist is because having multiple agents with Flash abilities makes attacking much easier in Valorant. And at a time when the Valorant community clamored that the game's maps are too defensive-sided, the Flash meta was created almost as a deliberate tool to combat against the unfavorable maps. After patch 2.0 was released, Riot shook up the meta even further by changing how the two main smoke agents functioned. For many months, Omen was the uncontested best smoke agent to use in competitive Valorant. He had 2 rechargeable smokes that were hollow, he has one of the best flashes in the game, and he has some of the best mobility of any agent in Valorant with his Shadow Step and Ultimate. But all King's reigns must come to an end, and Riot decided to buff his colleague Brimstone in an effort to dethrone him without reworking him. In the process, Brimstone received several buffs to his smokes, molly, and his stim in an effort to bring him up to snuff as a main smoker. While Omen also received several nerfs in the same patch, he's still very usable and still worthy of being the main smoker on your team. It's nice to have other options for a main smoke with the Brimstone buffs, and honestly, both Omen and Brimstone are on equal footing as controller agents in general. Are you interested in learning how to play smoke and flash agents better in Valorant? Our coaches on our website, ProGuides.com, would love to work with you one-on-one to correct your mistakes and make you a better player. On our website, you can upload your gameplay VODs for review, and you can book a session with one of our veteran high elo coaches. Make 2021 your year and invest in yourself as a player on your journey climbing up the new rank ladder. Head over to ProGuides.com today and let us help craft you into the best player possible. So now that we have discussed what the current meta is and what's wrong with it, we first have to give our props up to Riot because they have done a fantastic job with all their patches in the past 2 months. These most recent patches we've received have not only made the game better, but they've also fixed problems, balanced guns and agents, and managed to add new content in the mix as well. With that being said, there are no game-breaking glaring issues to start off Episode 2 like there have been in previous episodes and acts before. For example, in Episode 1, Act 1, Sage and the Sentinels made this game near impossible to attack on. In Act 2, Jet became public enemy number 1 when she broke the game by only using the operator both on offense and defense. For several months, both Jet and Omen took advantage of their mobility tools and used their powers to abuse the AWP, and it was not fun before Riot nerfed the AWP. In Act 3, Riot buffed the Initiator class by giving them several consecutive buffs to Breach along with adding Skye into the game. This gave birth to an attacker favorite meta, where multiple initiators and agents with flashes would steamroll sites by dumping their flashes and utility on the site and quickly clearing out the defenders. For the start of Episode 2, it looks to be a continuation of the Flash meta for now, especially since Yoru has been added to the game. This Flash meta was enabled by the fall of Sentinels to start off, which in turn weakened the power of defense on maps and opened the door to more aggressive offensive-sided gameplay. With the new additions of Skye and Yoru in the past months, and a stream of buffs to agents like Breach and Brimstone in the past several patches, attack-oriented agents are quickly rising to prominence within the competitive meta. As the Sentinels were kicked out of the meta, their game-stalling abilities and tactics left with them. Initiators and duelists like Yoru, Skye, Breach, Phoenix, and Reyna now give attacking teams the utility they need to push sites and get more map control with ease. Yoru and Skye have taken center stage in Valorant, as their presence in the meta have made for some major shifts in power to the offensive side of most maps. Now, let's shift this conversation to the weapons side of Valorant. Ever since the AWP got nerfed several patches ago, there has not been one game-breaking gun that needs to be nerfed currently in Episode 2. However, certain guns have started to see more play in the past few months. For example, the Korean pro community has been known to favor the Bucky and the Frenzy on eco and save rounds. They claim that both the Bucky and Frenzy have better cost to performance ratios than the Ghost, Stinger, and Shorty, and personally, I know in the West we don't often see these weapons used as they are unpopular on our servers. But just because they are unpopular in our region of the world does not mean we should turn a blind eye to an entire community complaining about cheap weapons that seem to be overpowered in the right situations. Also, while we are on the topic of guns, we need to talk about how powerful the Phantom and Judge are while in full sprint. Even though the inaccuracy penalty is significant on paper for these weapons, both of these guns have made some rage-inducing moments when I have been one-tapped by them while players W-key me on sight. The dev team for Valorant seriously needs to change the groundwork for how the inaccuracy penalties work for the guns in this game, both while standing still and in full sprint. Because too many weapons are completely ruining competitive gameplay because they are not staying true to where their strength should lie. Also, while we're on the topic of pistols and running one-taps, even through several nerfs, the right-click on the classic pistol is still beyond busted. There seems to be no consistency with this gun and how its damage model works up close and at range. Sometimes I will right-click an enemy with the classic twice and they still live with 30 HP, and other times I'll right-click an enemy with the classic and it will one-shot them even with armor on. This gun either needs to be balanced by having its right-click burst fire removed, or they need to alter its damage numbers and ranges heavily so that this gun is less of a coin flip and functions more reliably like the Glock from CSGO. You guys know we couldn't move on without our question of the day. I promise this will be a quick one, so let's get to it. Today's question is, what has been your favorite meta so far to play in Valorant? Personally, I really like the Sentinel meta because I like to play a slower and more tactical style of gameplay, and these agents really allow for me to shine. Let us know what your answer is in the comment section down below. Now, let's get right back into the video. So, how do we go about fixing these problems within the Valorant meta? Whether it be guns, agents, or map strategies, first off, we need to admit that we are not game devs, so we cannot give you concrete answers on how to fix all this game's problems from a technical standpoint, but we can give suggestions on how the developers could go about fixing these problems. First off, with the biggest problems within the weapons category of the current meta, running and gunning with weapons and inconsistent damage registration are big issues that need to be addressed. Like I said earlier, getting one-tapped by someone running with the Phantom is no fun, and there's nothing more infuriating than getting right-click with the classic from range and dying, or pumping someone with the left-click on the Bucky at point-blank range and they live to tell the tale. I think the devs should start by fixing how the dead zone and inaccuracy penalties work in Valorant as a whole. Right now, they are way too inconsistent and make for unfun gameplay when you are killed by something completely outrageous. It's a major immersion breaker to get mad at something as mundane as a video game's code and how it can screw you over and there's nothing you can do about it. Also, changing damage numbers on lesser used weapons such as the classic, Bucky, and Frenzy would also be a nice start for balancing the cheaper weapons in Valorant. On the agent side of things, I think the Flash meta is the least aggravating meta we've experienced so far. It's not as slow as the Sentinel stall meta, and it's not as aggravating as the multiple AWP meta from the past. I think Riot could fix the flash problem by limiting how many agents get access to multiple flashes. I believe that 3 flashes for Breach and Sky is a little over the top now that we have the likes of Yoru in the game. The game's meta that revolves around agents will evolve over time, and there isn't much Riot can do balance-wise to shake it up without reworking one or several agents. We will need to wait and see what other classes and types of agents Riot will add to the game in 2021, and see how that crafts and shapes the meta going forward. Well guys, that's all we have for the biggest balance problems within the Episode 2 meta. If you liked the video, then be sure to give it a like and consider subscribing if you enjoyed the content. Be sure to also visit ProGuides.com to gain some access to some of the best Valorant coaching around. You can choose from any of our high-low coaches to help you develop the skills you need to reach the rank that you deserve. All social media links will be down in the description below. And remember, stay safe out there, and I will see you all again very soon.